श्रीशैलेशदयापात्रं धीभक्त्यादिगुणार्णवम् यतीन्द्रप्रवणं वन्दे रम्यजामातरं मुनिम् लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् यो नित्यम् अच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्दष्टजीवजीवातवे नमः।
श्रीशैलेशदयापात्रं धीभक्त्यादिगुणार्णवम् यतीन्द्रप्रवणं वन्दे रम्यजामातरं मुनिम् लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्दष्टजीवजीवातवे नमः। Continue with the 74th sutra, 71st sutra, sorry. மணத்தையும் ஒளியையும் கொண்டு பூவையும் இரத்தத்தையும் விரும்புமா போலே சேஷமின் ஆத்மாவை ஆதரிக்கிறது. அல்லாத போதோரினால் குறைவினம் என்கிறபடியே தியாஜ்யம். அது தோன்ன சேஷத்துவத்தை சொல்லி பின்னே ஆத்மாவை சொல்லுகிறது. So the literal meaning of the sutra is as follows. மணத்தையும் ஒளியையும் கொண்டு பூவையும் ரத்னத்தையும் விரும்புமா போலே. So here he gives a very beautiful example. Why do we actually like a fruit, a flower? So in the Indian, you have to be aware of the Indian tradition in this context. Because according to the Agama Shastra, in which Keshwacharya Swamiji is a great expert, the flowers that do not have fragrance are not supposed to be offered to the Supreme God. So only those flowers that have fragrance are to be offered to the Lord. And there also there is distinction. Certain flowers are to be offered to Lord Vishnu only. And certain flowers are to be offered to Shiva and other demigods. If a flower does not contain what is known as the sattvic fragrance, as having jasmine, rose, etc., or the even the lotus, etc., it is not supposed to be offered to the God. So here that's why he says, Manattayum oliyayum kondu poovayum ratnattayum virumbuma pode. The flower becomes extremely desirable only due to its fragrance. Of course, it might have a very good color, it might be a pleasing, it might have a pleasing color, it might have a very soft sense of touch, and so many other good features. But the unique feature of a flower that makes it desirable and also offerable to the Supreme Lord is due to its beautiful, wonderful, divine, sattvic fragrance. So, if the flower is devoid of its fragrance, we don't accept it. So here the question is, it's a deeper question of the Shastra. It is you have to observe the nuance in a very careful manner. So it is, suppose I like Keshava Swami in a very, I like him, I have a lot of affection for him. the general principle is that irrespective of how he behaves with me, I should like him if I like him. Suppose he tells me that what you are doing is wrong. If I start hating him, then it means that I am not objective, I am subjective. So it is the dharmi or the substrate which is more important rather than the substratum. Substratum, that is the attribute. So is it correct? Yes, it is correct in some cases. Suppose I call an electrician to repair some electrical fault in my house. He has to bring so many implements that are required. He has to have a screwdriver, he has to have a tester, he has to have all these things. Or suppose I ask a carpenter to come and fix a door or something like that. If he comes without any implements, how can he fix the door? So if he comes without his implements, it is useless. Though we respect the carpenter for what he is, if he comes without any implements or without any instruments that help him do his job, it will be waste. Suppose he comes and says, I want to do some work. Have you brought all the implements that you required? No, I have not done. Then what is the use of your coming here? So that is the example that has to be adopted in this context. So if a flower is devoid of its sattvic fragrance, we don't accept it. Similarly, if an emerald or sapphire is devoid of the different dimensions of the light that when it passes through, it starts shining. If it is devoid of its light, then we don't accept it. So according to the field called gemology, of which I used to listen a little bit in my younger days, and some people used to discuss it in my presence. The shades of light that are emitted from the gem, when they are actually shown in the sunlight, actually determines the value of the gem, whether it's a sapphire or emerald or whatever it is, or a diamond or whatever it is. So if the light emitted by it is not unique, then that sapphire or emerald is the value of that gem decreases drastically. Similarly, if the Jivatma becomes devoid of its attribute called Sheshatva or subservience, then it becomes totally undesirable. So the Jivatma or the individual soul becomes very desirable or adorable only on account of its being subservient to the Supreme Lord. If it loses that quality, it cannot lose, that's a different issue. Assuming that there is a scenario where it loses this specific attribute, it becomes totally undesirable. Just as a flower becomes undesirable on its account of its being devoid of fragrance, or a gem which loses its value on its being devoid of the light, the shades of light that it emits when shown in the sunlight or when shown in the light. So that's why he says, Povayam Ratnatyam Virumbuma Pole Sheshaminna Atmavai Adarikiradhi. The Atma or the Jivatma becomes very adorable just because it is totally subservient to the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, it is Tyajyam, Allah Uriyanar Kuraivinam. So he quotes a Divya Prabandha and tells that, and then says, Adadonna Sheshatvatai Cholli Pinnayatmavai Cholluhiradi. So even while introducing the Atma, that is the individual soul, it is said actually in English, what happens? You first mention the noun and then mention the adjective. So when you say Rama was a great archer, or Rama who was a very righteous person. So in English, the method of explaining the adjective and the noun is first the noun comes and then the adjective comes in many cases. But in English also you have the righteous Rama, the great Rama, the valiant Rama, etc. So here also you have to first mention the attribute and then the attributed. So you say Shesha Bhuta Jivatma. Because in case Shesha Bhuta is not there, the Jivatma is useless. That's why he says Adatona Sheshatva Taicholi. First the Sheshatva or subservience is mentioned, and then only the word Atma is mentioned. So if you have a Rama who does not possess valor, what is the use? Because when Valmiki describes Rama, he says Vishnu Nasa Drisho Virye So Mavat Priyadarshana, etc. Suppose Rama was a weakling. Would we be worshipping him? No. Because the main aim or the objective of the incarnation of Rama was to have so much of valor and power that he could defeat Ravana himself, who had in turn defeated Indra also. So Rama is adorable, worshipable just because of his great strength and valor, etc. So he becomes adorable mainly due to his valor in this context. Of course, when we worship him as the husband of Sita, then the context is different. But when we are worshipping him as the slayer of Ravana, then it is the quality of valor which actually stands out, and that becomes very, very, very important. Similarly, in this context, the Sheshatva, the subservience, is the most important attribute that makes the Jivatma adorable. So that is very well commented upon by Manavana Mamuni, who says, Dharmiswarupa Kathana Purvakamaha Dharma Dharmamana Sheshatvaitchulluhai Praptamayirikka Pranavattile Prathamam Sheshatvaitchulli Pinnai Atma Vichulluvan Yen Yengira Shankaide Appadi Shulluhekki Hetuvai Arudichai Hira. As I mentioned, the general procedure that is followed is that first you mention the noun and then you mention all the qualities. But in this context, in the Pranava, first the attribute called Sheshatva is mentioned and then the qualified noun is mentioned. What is the reason? Because the Sheshatva is the outstanding quality which qualifies the Jivatma to make it adorable, to make it desirable, etc. And that is why this example has been given. Madattayam ityadi vakyatrayattale அதாவது மடத்துக்கு ஆசிரியம் என்று பூவை விரும்புமா போலேயும் ஒளிக்கு ஆசிரியம் என்று ரத்தத்தை விரும்புமா போலேயும் சேஷத்துவத்துக்கு ஆசிரியம் என்னாய்த்து ஆத்மாவை ஆதரிக்கிறது. சேஷத்துவமல்லாத போது உரையினான் குறைவினம் என்று பகவத் சேஷத்துவ ரஹிதமான ஆத்மா அபேட்சை உடையோம் அல்லோம் என்கிறபடியே தியாஜ்யனாய் விடுமித்தனை. இப்படி இருந்துள்ள சேஷத்தின் ஊத்தும் தோத்த மறந்தும் முந்தரச் சொல்லி பின்னை ஆத்மாவை சொல்லி தெண்டை. So the moment assuming that the Atma loses its quality of Sheshatva, subservience to the Supreme Lord, it becomes not only not adorable, not only not desirable, it also becomes tyajya or despisable. That means you can see how much of emphasis is laid on the aspect of Sheshatva. So unless the Bhagavad Sambandha, Bhagavad Sheshatva, Bhagavad Sambandha in the Rupa in the form of Bhagavad Sheshatva, that is, the Jivatma is defined by its subservience to the Supreme Lord. So many a times when I explain these concepts to you, I feel, why are they stressing it so much? Because it is extremely difficult for us to ourselves realize that we are subservient to the Supreme Lord. We always inherently feel, at least I can tell about myself, right? So each person has to look inward into the heart of his hearts and examine himself what is happening. So now today I want to start the class at 9 or 9:05. Yes, I am starting. So tomorrow 10 o'clock I want to leave for some place, I leave. So all these things give us a notion or a premonition that I am independent, I can do whatever I want. So what is that independence? That is what is the lack of realization of Sheshatva or subservience. That doesn't mean that we should not do what we want to do. But we fail to realize that everything is happening in our life, even what I am talking, even every word that I am uttering now, is because it is in accordance with the wish of the Lord that it is happening. So many a times when we actually give some instruction to a person, if he is prone to forgetfulness, we tell him again and again. We probably may tell him 5 times or 10 times or 15, do this, do this, do this, do this. If a person is not very forgetful, then he will say, why are you repeating the instruction again and again? Or even if he is forgetful, he may tell the same thing. Then this speaker has to say, see, you have forgotten my instructions several times, so even if I tell you 100 times, it is not enough. That's why I am repeating this again. So therefore, the Sheshatva aspect is being repeated again and again and again in all the sutras. So are they obsessed with this issue? Yes, in a way they are obsessed, because we feel that we are independent inherently. So somehow or the other, they want us to realize that we are not independent. So that is the thing which is going to come in the word Namaha also. Maha Engai Swarupanashanam. Namaha Engai Swarupojjivanam. Maha means I belong to myself. I do what I want. I am here for fulfilling my dreams. If a person feels like that, then he is as good as lost. No, I am subservient to the Lord. What is happening in my life is due to the wish of the Lord alone. We also many times say like that. But have we realized that? Saying something is different from realizing. So to somehow or the other, actually, I don't know whether that word is correct. They want us to be indoctrinated. It might be a word used in some other context. But this is a very good thing that has to be inculcated or indoctrinated into us, due to which they are doing it again and again. So if the Atma loses its subservience, then it becomes undesirable and it also becomes despisable. பதத்ரயாத்மகமானவி இப்பரணவத்தால் சொல்லி தலை கட்டின அர்த்தத்தை அருளிச் செய்கிறார் ஆஹா என்று தொடங்கி. So the two sutras 72 and 73 summarize the meaning of what has been mentioned in Pranava. The 74th sutra also in a way continues the same topic, but 72 and 73 quote Divya Prabandha stanzas and then explain what is being explained. Aha pranavattal kannapuramunnudayan ஒருவர்க்கு அடியேன் ஒருவர்க்குடே உரியேனோ என்கிறபடியே ஜீவபர சம்பந்தம் சொல்லித் தாய்த்து இத்தால் தாமரையாள் கேழ்வன் ஒருவனையே நோக்குணர்வு என்னதாய்த்து. அதாவது கீழ் சொன்ன எல்லாவத்தாலும் பிரணவத்தால் கண்ணபுரமுன்னுடையானுக்கு என்ன சதுர்த்தியர்த்தமான அகாரார்த்தத்தையும் அடியேன் என் விசேஷத்வாஸ்ரயவாச்சியான மகாரத்தில் அர்த்தத்தையும் ஒருவர்க்குரியேனோ என்ற அந்நசேஷத்துவ நிவர்த்தகமான உகாரார்த்தத்தையும் சொன்னான் என்று கொண்டு பிரணவார்த்தத்தை அனுசந்தித்த திருமங்கையாழ்வார் ஸ்ரீசூக்திப்படியே ஜீவபரர்களுக்கு உண்டான சேஷசேஷிபாவ சம்பந்தத்தை சொல்லித் தென்கை. So there is a very beautiful precedent that is followed in the Indian tradition and of course in other traditions also. So suppose there is a tennis academy. So in the tennis academy, what do? They put the pictures of all the successful players. So in the 80s, it was John McEnroe, Bjorn Borg and others. Then in the 90s, you had some other players. Then in 2001 onwards, you had Pete Sampras, Jim Courier or somebody like that. And now in the last 10 years, you have Roger Federer or so many other people. So they have their pictures splashed all over. Djokovic and others recently. So why? So they are the role models for people who aspire to learn tennis. Because they have done so many Wimbledon titles, US Open titles, French Open, Australian Open, Grand Slam, so many titles. And so much money they have earned. Similarly, if you have to do what is known as anusandhana, continuously within yourself accept and reiterate the fact that you are subservient to the Supreme Lord, who is the role model. There are several role models, and in this context, Manavana rather Pillilokacharya quotes 2 verses from Tirumangayalvar's Pashanam, or stanzas. So the Pranavartha is, first the Supreme Lord is Lord Narayana. And this Jivatma, who is mentioned by the Makara, who is denoted by Makara, which is the last alphabet among A, U, Ma. He is subservient to the Supreme Lord alone and not anyone else. So in this context, he quotes the verse of Tirumangayalvar, which says, Kannapuramunnudayarkku adiyen oruvarkku uriyeno. I am subservient to the Lord and only to the Lord of Tirukkannapuram. So Tirukkannapuram is one of the 108 Divya Deshas. It is a very, very beautiful Divya Desha because of the beauty of the Divine Lord who is presiding over that chosen site. So he says, Tirumangayalvar says, I am subservient only to the Lord who is presiding over the chosen site or Divya Desha of Tirukkannapuram. Tirukkannapuram means nothing. Tiru means Shri and Kanna means Krishna. Puram is nothing but the city of Krishna. City or town of Krishna. So Tirukkannapuram is Shri Krishnapuram or the town of Lord Shri Krishna. But though there are several chosen sites in which Krishna is the presiding deity, Tirumangayalvar has special liking for this chosen site. It is up to the person, up to the devotee to have subservience or extreme subservience to a particular Lord. And this is also not unprecedented. Because when Goda Devi or Andal, the only woman among the 12 Alvars, when she was offered the opportunity to choose any one lord among the 108 Divya Deshas, she chose Lord Ranganatha over all the other 107 lords. Of course, from the point of view of Tattva, all the Supreme Lords are one and the same. They are all the Archa Murtis of Lord Narayana only. But when you see it from a literary point of view, for the connoisseur, they say, oh, Lord Ranganatha is the best. He is the most beautiful among all the others. One person might say like that. Another person might say, no, I like Devadirada or Radharaja Swami more than any else. So I feel so elated when I go there. Your Lord Ranganatha is not so beautiful. One person might say like that. So it's a healthy debate and discussion. And as Keshavdas Ji has rightly mentioned, so Lord Ranganatha was known as Alahiya Manavalan, the most beautiful son-in-law. So son-in-law of whom? Son-in-law of Periyar or Vishnu Chitta. Of course, later he became the son-in-law, but even earlier also he was the son-in-law, so most beautiful son-in-law. And also the Sriranga Kshetra is the Bhu Vaikuntha. Because all the Alvars have sung about Lord Ranganatha, except Madurakkavi Alvar, of course, that's a different issue. So, Srirangam, of course, scores over all the other Divyadeshas because all the Alvars have, without any exception. Of course, exception of Madurakkavi Alvar is there. He did not sing any psalm or stanza about the Supreme Lord at all. He sang only 10 stanzas or 11 stanzas about Nammalvar. But the beauty of the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya is that he was also included among the Alvars and given a very, very exalted place. Because as we all know, the Lord loves a person who propitiates his devotee more than the person who propitiates the Lord himself. So that is the essence of Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. That is why we say the Acharya is more important than the Lord. And we give him more prominence than the Lord himself because he is the one who can command the Lord to give us liberation. That's why Swami Parashara Bhattar, when commenting upon when explicating the greatness of the Acharya, he says, Datte Rangi Nijamapi Padam Deshika Desha Kanchi. So Rangi or Lord Ranganatha, who possesses the Ranga, he bestows the exalted position of liberation or moksha to even an ordinary person if he is ordered to do so by the Acharya. So that is the greatness of Acharya in the Sri Vaishnava philosophy. That is why, for those who are familiar with the Tamil wordings, the Supreme Lord is known as Emberuman and Acharya Ramanujaya is known as Emberumanar, which is a further honorific added to the word Emberuman, which means the Supreme Lord. So Acharya Ramanujaya is known as Emberumanar. So he is given a position higher than the Lord himself by us, though he will not accept it. That's a different thing. So Kannaparamun Udayanikki Adiyen Oruvarkku Uriyeno. I am subservient only to the Lord of Thirukkannapuram. So here I am subservient only to the Lord of Thirukkannapuram. That Chaturthirthamana, in the Chaturthirthamana Akararthattayum Adiyen Yendra Sheshatva Shrevatiana Makarattil Arthattayum Oruvarkuriyeno in Anyasheshatva Nivartakamana Ukararthattayum. So here it is, the commentary is very well given in the sense that not only is he not subservient to other people, other ordinary persons, other jivatmas, etc. He goes to the extent of saying, I am not subservient to other forms of the Lord Narayana also. That means he is so much enamored and so much respectful about the deity who is presiding over the Divya Desha or chosen site of Tirupinnapuram. So these are all very beautiful points that can be enjoyed by the connoisseurs of Sri Vaishnava philosophy, because you have to understand the subtle nature with which this has been mentioned. Then only you can enjoy the beauty of Sri Vaishnava philosophy. So though all the chosen sites are the same, from the point of view of Andal or from the point of view of Tirumangi, one becomes much higher than all the others. But that is not in transgression of the Sri Vaishnava faith or Sri Vaishnava philosophy or Sampradaya. So within the framework of the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, only we enjoy all these things. Then one more. He says, then innamum poiheyarudiya divya suktile sheshatva pratisambandhi oru mithunam ennumidan totta இந்த ஜீவபர சம்பந்தத்தை அருளிச்செய்கிறார். தாமரையாள் கேள்வன் என்று தொடங்கி, அதாவது பிரணவத்தால் தாமரையாள் கேள்வன் என்று ஆகாரவாச்சனாய் சேஷத்துவ பிரதிசம்பந்தியான ஸ்ரீயஸ்பதியையும் ஒருவனையே நோக்கும் என்று சதுர்ச்சுகாரங்கள் சொல்லுகிற அனன்யார்ஹ சேஷத்துவ பிரயுக்தமான ஆத்மாவினுடைய ததேகபரத்தையையும். So next he quotes the verse of Poiheyar, who is the first among the 12 Alvars. I am sure you are familiar with the stories, divine stories of the Alvars, extremely beautiful stories. They are so catchy and we become enamored about the Alvars once we listen to their stories. So earlier it was mentioned that Kara can also mean our goddess Lakshmi, and that the Jivatma is subservient to both Lord Narayana and goddess Mahalakshmi. This is well illustrated by the verse of Tirumangi Alvar, who says, தாமரையாள் கேள்வன் ஒருவனையே நோக்குமுணர்வி. I have single-minded devotion towards the Lord of goddess Lakshmi, the consort or beloved of goddess Lakshmi. So he could have told Vishnu directly, he could have told Narayana directly. He has not told like that. He says, Tamarayal Kelvan. Tamare means Kamala, the lotus. And goddess Lakshmi herself is known by the word Kamala. So she is seated on a lotus, she holds lotuses. She herself is also personified as a lotus. So Poiheyar Alvar says, I am subservient to the Lord, to the consort of Mahalakshmi, that is, who is known by the word Kamala alone, which is nothing but Shriyaspati. So in Sanskrit, in the Shastras, we talk about a concept where the adjective which qualifies the noun is very, very, very meaningful. So there is an example is given, Dhanavan Sukhi. That means this rich man is very happy. That means the happiness, it can be construed that the happiness is due to the richness. Because money can beget everything. Generally, this is general rule, of course. Not all rich people are happy. Many times, most rich people are unhappy. So, that's why he says, the Pranavartha, the two aspects of the Pranava are mentioned. Tamarayal kelvan voruvanaye nokkudarvi. I am totally indebted, I am totally taken over by the Supreme Lord, who is the consort of Kamala or Tamarai, which is beautifully mentioned by Vaihyananda. And one more very important aspect, this Ananyarha Sheshatva Prayuktamana Atmavinude Tadekaparati. There is one more aspect is there, that though this Jivatma is totally subservient to him, Supreme Lord, it is also to be known that not only Shesha, it is Ananya Arhatva. That is why three important concepts are mentioned when one talks about the Jivatma. Ananyarha Sharanatvam, Ananya Bhogyat, Ananyarha Sheshatvam, Ananya Sharanatvam, Ananya Bhogyatvam. So this Jivatma exists only for the sake of the Supreme Lord, Paramatma, Lord Narayana. Because the Lord does not partake something if it is actually meant to be given to somebody else also. That is his nature, you cannot question it. That is why in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a beautiful story which you all know, it comes in the Mahabharata also, where the demoness Putana came to Krishna to feed him, breastfeed him with her milk, which was infected with poison. But the philosophy behind that story is Krishna enjoyed partaking that milk which was infested with poison because it was Ananyarha. This is very beautifully mentioned by Swami Vedanta Deshika, who says, Stanyam tad vishasam mishram rasyamasi jagadguroho. That stanya, the breast milk of Putana, a demoness, which was infested with poison, was greatly enjoyable to the Supreme Lord Krishna, because it had the quality of Ananyarhatva in it. That means it was meant only for Krishna and nobody else. So though Putana, a demoness, came with the intention of killing Krishna, there was a quality inherent in it that it was meant solely for Krishna and nobody else. And the Supreme Lord likes only that. It might be a fruit, it might be a Jivatma, it might be some other dish, or any entity for that matter. If it is meant solely for him and him only, then only he will accept it, otherwise he will not accept it. And since Putana came with the sole intention, single-minded intention of giving her poison-infested milk to Krishna alone, he enjoyed it greatly. And that is why it is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavata that ultimately, though she was a demoness, she was granted moksha by Lord Krishna. So even Ravana and others, they had, though they were demons, Shishupala, Dantavakra, all these people, ultimately they actually went to Paramapada only because they had the privilege of being killed by the Supreme Lord himself. That is why in a particular context, Lord Krishna himself mentions, I don't know whether Keshav Das ji is aware of that shloka. He says, Kamat gopyaha bhayat kamsaha, snehad vyuyam, and also dveshat chaitya. Even Lord Shishupala attained me only, Krishna says, because he was always hating me. Ahobhagyam tanakalakutam api nebhe gatim atrachitam tatomyas. And bhayat kamsa. So Kamsa also attained the Supreme Lord because he was all the 24 hours he was afraid of Kamsa, Krishna, Lord Krishna. So whether you hate him or you fear him or you love him, you do it with a single-minded thought about him only, ultimately you will attain moksha. But you have to do it in a manner that it is for the Supreme Lord only and not for anybody else. You may offer poison also, he will forgive you and accept you. So this ananyarhatva is very, very, very important. So if you prepare with great devotion, you prepare a dish and say, I have prepared it for this person, I will offer it to you. No. It is first for the consumption of the Supreme Lord only. As of now, we don't have, we means generally I am telling, some person might be really devoted to the Lord and he might have that thing. But do we do so? Do we actually do it only for the Supreme Lord and our cooking? Actually, that should be the ideal case. So this ananyarhatvam, ananya sharanatvam, ananya bhogyatvam, these three are most important terms that make the Jivatma acceptable to the Paramatma. Not only the Jivatma, everything. But in this case, it is the Jivatma. It becomes likable to the Paramatma only on account of its being solely for the sake of the Supreme Lord. So he says, how much ever we stress, it is not enough. I am subservient to him and him only and nobody else. Any number of superlatives is not enough. That's what he says. That is what is mentioned by the Poihi Alvar. So the meaning of the pranava is practically experienced and explained by these two alvars which has been quoted here. So ultimately these are our role models. Like we have the successful Wimbledon champions who are the role models for aspiring tennis players. I am mentioning that example only to make it easily understandable. So we also have to come to have that type of devotion towards the Supreme Lord as the alvars had. It might be like Pohi Alvar, it might be like Tirmangi Alvar, it might be like Puratta Alvar or Pei Alvar, any Alvar for that. It's not in our hands. But ultimately, these are the role models, and therefore their poetry has been quoted here by Pilalokacharya. உணர்வின் அந்த சேஷத்வாஸ்ரேமாக மகாரத்தால் சொல்லப்பட்ட ஞானைக நிரூபணீயனான ஆத்மாவையும் சொல்லுகிற சூத்தியைப்படியே ஜீவபர சம்பந்தம் சொல்லித்தாய்த்து. This is how the unique relationship, unique and exalted relationship of the Jivatma with the Paramatma has been mentioned. Therefore, he summarizes the meanings in the 74th sutra. It says, Akarattarum makarattarum rakshakanayum rakshatyum shullitthi yaturthyarum mukarattarum rakshanahetuana praptiyum parattiyum shullitthi. Email Pranavatai vivarikkirathu. Very beautifully, Pilalokacharya himself summarizes what has been mentioned until now. So, Akaratthanum, Makarattanum, Rakshanayum, Rakshakanayum, Rakshatyayum Shollitti. So, A, U and Ma are the three alphabets which are also in the form of words that constitute the Pranava or Omkara. Among them, Akara denotes Rakshaka, that is Lord Sriman Narayana. Makara denotes Rakshya, the person or entity that is fit to be protected, that is the Jivatma or individual soul. Then you have Chaturthi, the Chaturthi Bhakti or the dative case suffix which has disappeared as explained earlier. Chaturthyarum Mukarattarum Rakshana Hetuana Praptiyayum Palattayum Shonditte. So the invisible are not specifically had dative case suffix, and Dukara mention that this Jivatma is subservient to the Supreme Lord alone, and also the result of that subservience is that he attains the Supreme Lord himself. Inimel Pranavatai Vivarikirade. So hereafter I am going to explain the Pranava. So the commentary is given as follows. Akarattil pratyartha pradhanama pranavarthatte yojittarkil arildhatvartha pradhanama pranavathukku இன்னமும் ஒரு யோஜனை அருளிச் செய்கிறார் அகாரத்தாலும் என்னே. அதாவது அகாரத்தாலே ரட்சகனான ஈஸ்வரனை சொல்லி, அகாரத்தாலே தத்ரக்ஷமான ஆத்மவஸ்துவை சொல்லி, சதுர்த்தியாலே ரட்சிக்கைக்கு ஹேதுவான சேஷத்துவமாகிற பிராப்தியை சொல்லித்து. இப்படி ரட்சிக்கிறதற்கு பலம் ஆத்மவஸ்து ஆத்மலைக்க அத்தலைக்கு அனன்யார்ஹமாக விநியோகப்படுகையாலே அனன்யார்ஹ சேஷத்துவவாச்சியான உகாரத்தாலே ரக்ஷண பலத்தை சொல்லி தெங்கை. இம்மந்திரத்தில் பிரதம பதமான பிரணவார்த்தத்தை அருளிச் செய்து இம்மந்திரத்தில் பிரதம பதமான பிரணவார்த்தத்தை அருளிச் செய்தார் ஆய்த்து. இனிமேல் பதங்களுக்கும் அர்த்தம் அருளிச் செய்வதாக மந்திரசேஷமும் இதற்கு விவரணமாயிருக்கும்படியை முந்தரவருளிச் செய்கிறார். இனிமேல் பிரணவத்தை விவரிக்கிறது என்கை. So here further these aspects are explained by Manavana Mamuni, which I have already explained to you. The next sutra deals with a separate topic which we will see in the next class. Keshav Swami, you can go ahead if any questions are there.
No, I think Swami, it was all summarized. The meaning of the Omkara, I think, has been fully summarized now. So, so I think it's very clear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay then. So thank you very much, everybody.
One interesting thing is that you were giving the example of the gem, which has a certain brilliance. And when a gem is covered by mud, we cannot see the brilliance. But if we clean it and wash it, then we see. So also a gem has to be also cut into certain facets by a jeweler in order to give more brilliance. So, but the Jivatman itself has a brilliance when it's stripped away from the Ajnana in this world. So the Acharya helps to, like a jeweler, he helps to bring out the brilliance of the soul. So I think the flower is a good example, but the gem may be a better example in my opinion.
You're absolutely right. So it is only uncovers the Ajnana and then the natural jnana of the Jivatma blooms, or it shines forth, which makes it fit for moksha. So you're absolutely right. So that's why even in the Upanishad it says, Hiranmayena patrena satyasya apihitam mukham. You're absolutely right. So it's only the process of unlearning that in a way, not from all points of view. From a particular point of view, it is we unlearn what is incorrect. Then knowledge shines forth on its own account. So that is one theory. Yes, please go ahead.
No, I was going to say in the example of the flower. Sometimes when sometimes we are out in nature and there are many flowers, but because of bad smells around us, we can't smell the flower. So because of this material world being being surrounded by all of the dirt in this material world, we can't smell the fragrance of the
Yes.
soul.
Yes, yes, yes. That's also very good example. See, there is with one analogy, you can extract several dimensions of the meanings. So what you are told is absolutely right.
So I noticed also now it's Margali month, the end of Margali month, and just recently they're doing the marriages of Goda to Ranganatha. Just now they're performing those ceremonies. So when you spoke about Goda Devi marrying Lord Narayana, and of course she has spoken about this in her Nachya Tirumoli.
Yes.
So this is a very important ceremony, a ritual that goes on in the liturgical year of the Sri
significance
Vaishnavas.
is like this, I briefly mentioned. So generally when the Tirupavai discourses are arranged, it happens for 30 days during the month of Margadi or Dhanurmasa as it is called in Sanskrit. So what is the result? So the result is she attained the Supreme Lord Narayana, that is the result, which is actually mentioned in the 29th stanza. So the premise of Tirupavai is like this. I'm sure you might know about it. I will, if required, I'll talk about it on one day, probably next week. If I require about half an hour, 45 minutes to explain it in detail in the right spirit, in the right perspective. So it's a very good question. You please remind me next week. Probably we can do 45 minutes of Mumuksupadi and then half an hour of what Tirupavai is and why and Goda Kalyana is done, etc. So if you feel it's could be okay, then I can do like that.
Yeah, that would be very nice. I also would like to hear your explanation about, because the Goda Kalyana to me also is just like the Sharanagati or the property of the Jiva is like the marriage of the Jiva to the Supreme Lord. Just like so, the Goda Kalyana represents this.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So I will, you please remind me, I will explain it because it requires a minimum of half an hour or 45 minutes. So I will talk about it in the next class.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Ached Chatura Chaturakshari Kamastham Prapadyante Jantavo Antamadrisha Punyambhoja Vikasaya Papadvan Takshayaya Cha Shimana Virabhut Bhumau Ramanuja Divakaraha Krita Virinchar Virankusha Vibhutayaha Ramabjapadam Bhoja Samashrena Shalinaha